fire and EMS agencies. Stop managing 10 plus vendors. Medical Shipment is your one source for training equipment, devices, and supplies. Visit medicalshipment.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Just a Little Salt, the podcast hosted by me, the Salty Paramedic. If you or anybody you know wants to be on the show, make sure to send a request to justalittlesaltpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to support the podcast and the work I'm doing for first responders, it's easy. Go on the saltyparamedic.com. Everything there, books, merch, resources, is built around this community. If you're looking for bonus episodes or content you're not going to hear anywhere else, make sure to join the Patreon. Go on patreon.com and search the Salty Paramedic. That support directly helps me keep bringing this content to life. Without further ado, thanks for listening. Here's the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Just a Little Salt. I have a very special guest today. Gotten to know Mr. Brad Lawson very well this past year. He's got a lot going on. Got a lot of awesome things in the pipeline. I'll let him introduce himself to you guys, and we'll get straight into the questions.
Hey, what's going on, Cody? I appreciate it, man. My name's Brad Lawson. I am a paramedic here in North Carolina. I've been doing EMS straight out of high school. So February was my 27th year in EMS. So there's been a lot during that span. I'm sure we'll hit on some of it today. But lately I find myself in the world of working on summits for first responders, and that's sort of where we connected. I started speaking about mental wellness about 5 or 6 years ago, my own personal journey. And then I wrote a book, and everything sort of started taking off, and it ended up where now I'm just going around hosting these mental wellness summits, meeting a lot of super people, and that's how we sort of connected. And so, yeah, it's been crazy the past couple years for sure.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot about you because, like I said, we've gotten to know each other the past year a little bit more, but I really don't know a lot about your background. So talking about that, what first pulled you into emergency services?
I think way back in high school, I had a couple different motivators. Number one was a high school teacher teaching American history, Mr. Kemp. I remember that Mr. Kemp was just so passionate when he was talking about American history, especially when it come to war. And that really piqued my interest on the military side of things. And so I started looking into the military and got really interested with the combat medical specialist role. And so when I was 17 years old, I enlisted and went to basic training in between my junior and senior year, and started learning that combat medic role shortly after that. And then I had a really good friend in high school that my senior year, while I was away at basic, he started volunteering with the fire department. And so when I got back home, he invited me over to the fire department, hung out with those guys, started messing around with the guys at the rescue squad, and then just, going on a couple calls. The rest is history.
Awesome. Well, something I've never really talked to about people. What's the difference between the Army medic side life compared to, just regular EMS?
I will say as an Army medic, we are a lot more respected. All the guys, they call us doc. They go to us for everything medical. They will really go to bat for you. They take care of their medic, right? In the civilian world, when we're in the streets, man, it's 50-50. You got some people that's really going to appreciate you, and you got some other people that think that we're just, we're the public servant and they pay our salaries and we should do everything they want us to do and more. So I definitely feel like it's a little bit different, and we get a lot more respect from our military community than we do in the general public.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, this beginning portion of the podcast, I want to dive straight into the Pierce Foundation, your mental wellness summits. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get more into just mental health as a whole afterwards. So first off, tell us about the Pierce Foundation. What's the mission, everything like that?
Okay, yeah. So when I decided that I was going to start speaking and going around having conversation about saving ourselves. It started motivating other people to want to be involved. They wanted to share their own stories in hopes of doing the same thing, inspiring the people around them to just speak up and seek some help. Well, it started growing momentum, and I saw that there was potential for there to be more opportunities there. So I felt like I needed a nonprofit because, we were going to need some opportunities to do some fundraising, to have some opportunities to help some people in need. And so I sort of just stepped out on faith and said, you know what, we're going to build this nonprofit and we're just going to take this thing wherever it goes. And so it just started increasing in numbers. Next thing you know, we were talking about 20 people in a classroom, and we hit 17 states represented in the first event we did, So really the mission is to support our first responders through wellness initiatives, education, financial assistance, and most importantly, just increasing their awareness of the available resources that are out there for them. I feel like that is something that we don't do a good job of. There's tons of resources, but first responders don't necessarily know they exist, if they're free or they cost, and more importantly, are they vetted resources of folks who get what we do. And so we're trying to sort of build a network of people and services that folks can just immediately know that they have access to. So,
okay. Now, you started the Pierce Foundation, and every time I try to tag it, there's also Pierce Provisions. Walk me through, what's the difference between those? What's the difference?
Yeah, so Pierce Provisions is my teaching company. So I have a side business, an LLC that's a for-profit company, and so I do a lot of going around the state of North Carolina teaching various things, leadership classes, your AHA and NAEMT courses for medics and EMTs and stuff. And so when I do that kind of work, that flows through my teaching company. So there was Pierce Provisions was there as an educational company, and then we realized the need for a nonprofit foundation. So, and just sort of keeping that Pierce name that here in North Carolina people were aware of, we decided to just keep that when we named the foundation, to keep that relation.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, the mental wellness summits that you've started putting on, I had the pleasure of going and speaking at the one in Wilmington. Just got back from the one in Charleston. For those listening right now, I can't even begin to describe just the environment, the type of people you'll meet here. It's just something I've never got to experience before. So walk me through how that all came into fruition. Maybe talk about some that you have in the pipeline coming down the line.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think that when we started talking about everybody wanted to start being able to share their story, we quickly realized that it was turning into something more. And I had the crazy idea of, why don't we just put on a conference or something? Why not? I mean, what could happen? 20 people shows up, no big deal. So we started working on that just as an opportunity for people to speak, but then I quickly started having other thoughts. And I guess that's the good thing about having ADHD, is your brain sort of goes crazy sometimes and you get all these ideas. Usually it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, you know what? It would be really cool to do this and have some kind of an event that is not the cookie cutter BS that we're always used to going to for professional continuing education or whatever the case may be in your profession. It's a very cookie cutter formal type thing. Half of us didn't want to be there to begin with, or we've gone there for just one particular conversation. What we found was we filled up a room of people who are used to being the oddball in the room. And I think that resonated with everybody, where, we feel alone more than we feel connected to anybody else. And just the feeling that we got when that room started filling up at both locations, you just feel it. There's not a descriptor for it. But this is one of the very few times that I personally have felt like I'm comfortable and safe in a group of people. Normally, I'm so hyper vigilant. I'm always looking at what other people are doing. But I quickly realized that every single person that came to this It's specifically because they're concerned about mental wellness and changing the stigmas that exist. This wasn't a 1 out of 20 different topics. Everything was around mental wellness. And some people thought we wouldn't be successful because it was so niche. But the contrary has happened. And I think what that did for us is it showed us how hungry people are for more resources, more safe spaces to have these types of conversations. So we're finding, man, I pick about it that we've got groupies or something, because I've got people that are following us from event to event to event. And then not only are they going to the events, they're doing exactly what I told them to in the first summit. When we were down in Wilmington, I didn't speak formally, but when we were closing out the event, the one thing I wanted to leave everybody with as they left was, don't leave this here. Go back and make change where you are, because it takes more than just having a stage and people just talking about the things. Somebody's got to put this stuff to action. And so it's been happening. I get messages all the time for where people are starting peer support teams. People are starting their own initiatives just to bring awareness, and all these other things that we hear, man, that just fills your heart up, and it makes it worth every bit of what we go through to make this happen, because I'm not an event planner and I had no clue how much really goes into doing all this stuff. But I mean, buddy, it's worth every minute. It's worth every dime at the end of the day to hear from these people that we truly made an impact on them. And it's like I say, we're truly making a movement. We're making a community of people who are wanting to go back and make those changes. And that's what makes me super proud of us putting this together.
Yeah, there's something I've noticed as a speaker at these events is, you've given a voice to a lot of people this is the first event they've spoken at. This is the first opportunity they've been given. And I'll give a little shout out. I talked to you about it. Felicia, man, young lady, she just got her medic. I don't get to see other people speak a lot when I go to these events, and I got to see her. And I think she's fairly new to it. And let me tell you, it's inspiring hearing people's stories, and just, you can feel how hungry they are to,
Yes.
prove themselves and help others. And it's so awesome. So, if y'all are around these areas, these summits are at, please make an effort to go to one. But speaking of that, do you have any that, are going to be, you can announce at other places that you have announced right now you can talk about?
Yeah, I've got, we did announce when we were in Charleston that we're going to do something a little bit different in Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville, South Carolina is not really going to be a first responder mental wellness summit as we have sort of labeled all of these others as. It's going to be something we're calling Responder Fest. So Responder Fest it's going to be a festival, right? So we're doing an outdoors venue. It's at a local brewery in South Carolina, and they have this really large disc golf course in the woods. They have a huge camping area in the woods, stages and all this other kind of stuff. And they're just donating all of this area to us to have this big 2-day event. So we thought it would be a really good opportunity for us to have this outdoors event where we can still talk about mental wellness. But now the focus is going to change a little bit, and we're going to start emphasizing things such as, some really good hobbies to have to do something outside of work. When the badge comes off, what do I do with myself? So we're going to have a whole session about various hobbies. It might be woodworking 101, or, in the kitchen with Cody, or, something. We're going to have opportunities for people to pick up. Maybe you do want to learn how to do some sourdough bread. But there's still going to be some main stage conversations like you're familiar with from our summits. We're going to have cornhole competitions and all kinds of different things that we're going to do. And really, this is just to take what we've been doing with our summits and expand it out a little bit and show people that we can still have a really good, responsible time together and learn other things to make our lives more rich, as Felicia would say, her rich method of living.
Oh, yeah.
So add a little bit of richness into our lives through some of these other activities, because, when I sit back and think about it, I told you I started this straight out of high school. Outside of fishing, I don't have really a whole lot of other things that I'm any good at, because I've always just worked. And so this is going to be an opportunity for folks to either learn a little bit more about themselves or go home with some new skills that they can now put to use on those rare occasions that have a day off. So that's September 10th and 11th. That's going to be really special for us in the first responder world because of 9/11. So we have some really good things planned for the morning of 9/11 to do some remembrance. So we feel like that's going to be a fantastic time. Leaving there, I've got to go down to EMS World. So are you going to be down in EMS World?
Yeah. I'm probably not going to make it this
probably
year.
Not? Okay. Yeah. Well, you got scratched so that I could have a spot. So I'm heading down to EMS World this year. I'm really happy about that. But then I'll fly straight from there to Nashville, Tennessee. So connected with paramedic Sophie. She spoke in Wilmington for us. And man, that was powerful what she did there. And she was like, I really want to bring this to Tennessee. And I'm like, I really want to go to Tennessee. So we're going to make that work. So I haven't really put a whole lot out there other than a teaser on Facebook. So, but this weekend I will announce that it's going to be October 5th and 6th. So it'll be sort of a summit like we did in Wilmington, big 2-day indoor venue at the Sheraton there. I don't remember which one it is. I know there's a few Sheratons, but it's the cheap one. I'll put it like that. The cheapest Sheraton is where we're going to be at. That's the thing about these grassroots movements, man. We don't have state money and stuff like that. And I think that's another thing that attracts people to us, though. This is just a bunch of first responders getting together, and we're raising money and putting our own money to it. And we're just making it happen. And, I'll say personally, I've felt let down by some state entities from time to time. And so that makes me a little leery when it comes to state stuff. So Nashville's going to be fun. And then right now, the buzz around here is we're doing Asheville, North Carolina, October 28th through the 30th. The cool thing that's going to be different about that one for us is we've added an evening couples workshop. So on that Wednesday night, the 28th, we're going to do a couples workshop focused on first responder couples. And that's going to be with our friends from Bless the Badge. They were down in Charleston with us. They're graciously accepted the invitation to come do that for me on the 28th. And then the 29th and 30th are going to be our full conferences. We're going to have, I just announced yesterday, there's a bunch of us guys. I don't know, do you have any Dixon flannels? You know what I'm talking about? Dixon, Dixxon.
I thought you meant like dicks in flannel shirts, like
we will have a lot of dicks in flannel shirts. Yes, we will. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a runway for those dicks in flannel shirts. I just, a bunch of us, they're really nice flannel shirts. You should check them out. It's not a plug for Dixon, but they have really nice flannels. And what I found is there's a lot of people around here that are really into those shirts. And I'm like, we're going to have a runway competition with some guys doing a fashion show with our flannel shirts in Asheville. So that's going to be one of the crazy things we're going to do in Asheville. Then also, because it's like the 29th and 30th, we're going to do a Halloween contest as well. So that's we're going to dress up that night and do some Halloween competition stuff. So probably do some karaoke somewhere. Who knows? But we just like making different things like that, man. So that's the ones that are coming up. I'm in talks with folks for New Jersey. I'm in talks for Las Vegas. So we're just going to see. I mean, I may be able to get there. I may not be able to get there, but we're going to try. But that's the ones that we have coming up for the rest of the year. So, if you're anywhere in any of those areas or have the means to get there, I promise you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? It all starts from a tiny idea, and look at what it's slowly becoming. So, like looking at these summits that you've already done, do you remember one moment you'll never forget? Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I really think, given that "Don't Leave This Here" talk at the end of Wilmington, just seeing how many people had gone through both days of all the conversations, listening to all the different speakers, doing all the things, but they were still so passionate and hanging on to literally every word that was being said. As speakers, you oftentimes look out and half the audience isn't even paying you any bit of attention. But to be able to look out there and every single eyeball is on you, nobody's speaking, nobody's scrolling Facebook, they're really locked in. And I'm like, you know what? We really are doing something here. And I wanted to let them know that if they will get out of their own way, they're capable of anything they put their minds to. The only thing that keeps me from being successful is me. I talk myself out of so many things. This is the first thing that I've followed through with of my crazy ideas. And I'm so glad I did, because just in that moment, seeing all of those people, man, it just makes it worth every bit of work that's gone into making these things happen, dude.
No, absolutely. Mm-hmm. This next question I'm going to talk about a little bit, but feel free to add after I say my piece. But So I was going to ask, what makes these summits different from the usual mandatory wellness PowerPoint? I've been to different fire schools, EMS conferences, and going to these summits, it seems like the majority of speakers I've seen, there's no reading of PowerPoints. They have PowerPoints that are supplemental, for visual stuff. But the majority of speakers have their own stories and why they talk about what they do. And that makes it so much more personable. Every speaker I saw this past, 2 weeks ago at Charleston, it seemed like I connected them in some way, because they've gone out and done what I have, in public service. And it just makes it so much better than going to some fire school. And, there's cool fire classes, ropes Sure. and everything like that. But it's just so different. And I can't even begin to explain. So do you have anything to add to that? Just what makes these summits different than your typical stuff?
Yeah, I think that when we started putting this together, we wanted to make an emphasis on this not just being somebody telling a war story. Mm-hmm. We did get very, very good speakers, and that's what I'm proud of, is that we didn't just get somebody that reads slides. And like you said, man, I've been to so many classes and these professional educators where it's literally just slide reading, and nothing against them, but you lose audiences so fast. But to have this level of speakers that we've had, to just come from the heart, sharing not only their experiences, but their successes. They talk to you about the failures, the bad parts, but here's the things that we did to make ourselves better, or here's what worked for me, or here's these resources. And that's the important part, is understanding that we're not telling you unique stories. It's sad, but all of our stories are far too common. There's so many of us that go through all of these things on different levels, but it's very common. And that's what gets people is, you feel like they're speaking directly about something that you went through, and that's special. That's an opportunity for somebody to not be told that you're not alone, but they get the aha moment of, oh, I'm not alone, because that's exactly what I went through. And so by being able to have those speakers truly speaking from their heart, talking about experiences, being vulnerable on a stage, real recognize real, right? So when you've got those folks up there, that's what connects with the people in the audience. And 100%, that's what makes it different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mental health as a whole, of course, I've written my book about it. You've written yours. Mm-hmm. You've openly said in the past you live with PTSD, not from one big event, but death by 1,000 cuts. When did you first realize the job changed you?
Yeah, that is one of the big conversations that I have in my events, is the realization that most of us aren't messed up by one particular event. It is the cumulative trauma, right? And so the death by 1,000 cuts is something that I use, and it talks about just all of the things and what is that moment. And that moment for me was when I found myself treating patients very poorly, and I'd lost all of my empathy, and I began to question, why am I even doing this? Because me 2, 3, 4 years ago would have never made that patient walk to the truck, or I would have never given that patient to the EMT. And it's just because, not that I'm burnout, and that's a whole nother topic we could have. We use the term burnout, but truly what it was is I have all of these traumas, these injuries that I'm choosing to suppress or pretend they're not there, and it's affecting everybody around me, not just on the calls, but at home too, you know? And so when I had this aha moment of, you know what, I'm not really being that provider that I prided myself on being on. I've really turned into a crappy person. And it's, maybe I need to take my own advice, and maybe I don't need to be in this profession.
Yeah. No, I've been there too. I talk about that same thing. And so was there a specific breaking point, you would say, where just holding it together stopped working for you?
I think my breaking point was probably the time that I attempted to take my own life. And for whatever reason, I really can't tell you, other than the phone ringing and me deciding to answer it, why I stayed. You know, I had driven myself to a point of no return. And it's really, when I sit and think about it now, it gives me chills right now, just thinking about how you can be so mind made up on this is the only thing to make any of this better. And with that phone call, I think that truly changed the direction of my life in so many ways, not just in deciding, you know what, I need to get some help, but just my outlook on life in general. That changed a lot of things for me. And so, you know, I thank God all the time that the phone rang, and it's something that I try to remind people of every time I get an opportunity to speak. Be that person. But if you say you're going to answer the phone for somebody, make sure you answer the phone. It just happened to be the other way around for me. I wasn't calling to get help, but help called me. And that was a very moving point for me in my life.
Yeah. You know, first responders, we all go through internal struggles and everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't talk about them to our loved ones, our coworkers, everything like that. What do you think some of the lies are that first responders tell themselves when they're struggling?
The big one for me is, I'm burned out. You know, going back to my previous conversation, when I'm teaching leadership, it comes up a lot about burnout and how that contributes to culture toxicity. And not that it doesn't, but I think if we're completely honest with ourselves and the people around us, most of us use burnout as a cop-out for, I'm injured. I have these traumas, and I'm not making an effort to deal with them. I can use burnout as the escape, and it's easier. And they're right. It's easier to say, I'm burned out, we're overworked, I have a shitty administration, all these things, instead of saying, you know what, I can't handle all of these emotions and the things that I'm going through, and I don't know what to do with them. So yeah, it is easier, especially when that administration that you're referring to, you don't trust them enough to go talk to them and say, hey, I need help. You know, so we just say, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, or I'm fine. And that's the piece that we have to change. And, you know, I wish I had the magic remedy, but I'll tell you, just going around and talking about it, starting conversations, is doing a hell of a job. What you're doing, what so many people are doing, the foundation with the summits, that is doing something to sort of change this conversation, because I feel like that is one of the biggest lies. And a lot of people don't like for me telling them that. A lot of people don't like for me to dismiss that they're just burned out.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about we don't like to have difficult conversations, so we avoid them. And man, that's the most difficult conversation you're going to have, is really opening up about the things that are hurting you and causing you to feel the way you do. That's tough, but there's a lot of people that really want to hear that story and help.
Yeah, I mean, and there's not one magical remedy to fix you. You know, there's different things that are going to work for different people. I can't tell you, like, even at Charleston, I had some people come up to me and tell me that my book saved their life. I can't tell you the impact that has on me as an individual. You know, something I wrote in a book, you know, they said it saved their lives. So that's been my experience. You know, different speakers affect different people in different ways. You know, resources like these books and everything. And it's just, you know, trying to put those resources out and trying to make a difference at the end of the day. It's awesome. The healing process. So, for first responder, what did healing look like for you after you got over and past that event? What did all that look like?
Yeah. A lot of trial and error. You know, I try to joke a lot because I am such an emotional person. I don't know if you've noticed, but about every time I get on stage, I cry at some point. But I am an emotional guy. So I try to use a lot of humor, a lot of comedy. I'm not real funny. I'm not funny like you are. But healing in my case was a lot of trial and error, you know, and I try to use humor when I'm speaking to folks, and I sort of compare it to some of my failed marriages. You know, I talk about my favorite wife when I'm on stage, and she truly is. She's my favorite wife. She's not been my only wife, but she is my favorite by far. And I talk about how healing and, you know, finding the right therapist and all these different things doesn't just happen the first time that you try it. And so you can't just decide, oh, that didn't work, so forget about it. You know, you got to keep going until you find what works for you. And it's just like those marriages. Thank God my favorite one has worked out. I'm not going to get into numbers. Y'all are too judgy. But it took me a few times, okay? In baseball, you get 3 strikes. It's for a reason. Don't mean you're a bad person. Don't mean you suck at baseball. It just takes a few balls once in a while.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest piece, is understanding that it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work from you, and it takes you being dedicated to the process. Every day's not pretty, and healing is an ongoing thing. It's not going to be, oh, I'm healed, I'm cured, right? I still have days right now, man. I don't have it figured out. I still struggle. I still meet with my therapist, and I still have days of depression where I stay on the couch. The one thing that I have done that's different now is I now have plans. So just like firefighting, when you have your plans, it's a lot easier if something does happen to go attack that fire. When you don't have a plan, it can suck a little bit. And so now at least I can't keep myself from being depressed, but I do have plans and I do check-ins on myself to start, where am I at right now? And I need to start doing something, because if I'm right here, like we talk about the stress continuum, am I surviving, thriving? Where am I at? If I'm over here struggling, I need to recognize that and go ahead and put some plans into motion before I end up down here in a crisis, right? So I may spend a day on a couch, but I remember when I spent 2 weeks on a couch. And so that's the thing where I take that. That's a win, buddy. That's a win if I'm only spending 1 day on the couch versus 2 weeks. So yeah, healing is an ongoing process. It is trial and error. What used to work may get to a point where it doesn't work anymore, and we just got to figure it out, right? So that's sort of where I'm at right now with the healing process. And I just want people to understand that you don't have to get it right every time. You just got to be committed to the process.
Yep. My next subject I want to talk about is emotional numbness in the job, how dangerous it can be. I talk about there was a point in my career where I saw a lot of bad trauma runs, stuff I never thought I would ever see, and it never affected me. And that got bad because I got overconfident. I thought nothing could affect me until it did, right? And it was too
Yeah.
late. So, talking about that emotional numbness, why is it dangerous in our profession?
Yeah. When we're tasked with taking care of people on their worst day, you would like to think that we're always at 100%. Truth of the matter, sometimes we're hanging on by a thread too when we're showing up for these people's worst days. But that emotional numbness, it's cumulative. And the numbness, I compare that to like how when we maybe we're trying to lose some weight, right? We're looking in that mirror every day and we're not really seeing any changes in things, right? That's sort of the same thing that happens to us as we get this constant exposure to things over and over and over and over. I use like homicides. I mean, where I'm from, where I worked at, we have a bunch of homicides. It is what it is. And just as I'm exposed to those so much, I too, like you said, I started just, bag them and tag them, right? That's what we say. And so there was no more empathy. Again, going back to empathy, I remember the first time I went to a homicide, and I remember all these feelings that I had, and just that whole situation, how terrible it was. But then, like you said, as time goes by, man, I'm over here eating my cookies and putting them in a body bag and not thinking twice about it. But it affected not just the homicide patients that I went to, but you sort of become callous towards all the other patients too, right?
Yep.
Their emergency doesn't meet your standards of an emergency anymore. And so now we get back to where we're under treating. We're going back to, I'm giving that EMT that chest pain because he's full of crap. That's the dangerous part about it. We don't see those things building up, but just like losing weight, you may not see the differences, but go meet up with lunch for somebody who hadn't seen you in 6 months.
Yeah.
They're going to say, wow, man, look at the change. What change? I ain't lost nothing, right? It's that same thing with that emotional trauma and becoming numb. It's that same process. We don't realize that it's happening, but it's happening. And then we get to this bad incident, and now it's in front of us. Or like you said, all of a sudden something just triggers you. It doesn't have to be a big event. It might just be a little event. I know one thing that took me over the edge one time. I never had a problem running cardiac arrest or anything. And then I completely lost it on some little 76-year-old woman that died. So, and it's because she reminded me of my grandma. My grandma had died like 4 months previously. And just when I went to that code, I'd never lost it on a code before. Well, I have on a pediatric code, but I've never lost it on an adult cardiac arrest before. But I just completely lost it. I'm slinging snot and crying all over this little lady, just like it was my mama,
Oh, yeah.
And so all those little things, you think you're not touchable, but then it slaps you in the face for sure.
Yep, absolutely. If someone's listening right now, and they're drowning, they know they're drowning, but they're hiding it well. What do you want them to hear right now? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. Number one, I've been there. I've done that. I've been the person who has dismissed trauma injury. I've been the person who has looked at other providers and said, maybe you're not cut out for this job if you can't handle it. I've been that person. It is 100% okay to give yourself some grace and take care of yourself just like you stepped up to take care of other people. I think that some people fail to realize why the help or why the hurt becomes the helper is a term that we say sometimes. I think people don't realize why they're even doing this sometimes, because again, they have injuries that have never been dealt with. They might not even realize is a problem. because they haven't dug into what the problem is. So when we go back and look at things such as adverse childhood trauma, it's astronomical how many first responders score high on that test.
Mm-hmm.
These folks aren't by themselves. All of us, me, you, there's tons of people who are trying to bring awareness. And the number one thing is making sure that people know that they don't have to fight alone. And that includes anybody that's listening to this. You don't have to do this by yourself. I promise you could reach out to either one of us and we're going to find you some resources. And you deserve to be happy and healthy. This job, the things that you're dealing with is not just a side effect of the job, and you chose to do this. And what's our famous line? It is what it is. It don't have to be what it be. You know, we can get resources to where we can process these things, and we don't have to suffer in silence. So if any of this stuff has resonated with somebody today, I mean, obviously there's 988. There's tons of other resources. We just need you to take the first step and reach out and say that you want the help. And then there's plenty of people that's going to step in to walk with you.
Yeah, that's great advice. I want to do a few funny questions before we end the podcast.
Okay.
To break it up. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in EMS? 26 years? Is that?
Yeah. 26. You stop counting after 25, Cody. I mean, unless you're making it to retirement, then you count. But
yeah. That's fair.
I chased money too much.
How many gas station roller dogs do you think you've had in your career?
Man, I'm probably, my body is probably 30% gas station hot dogs and full throttle energy drinks. So you know about the full throttle energy drinks? Were you around in that period? Yeah. So we couldn't afford Red Bulls when they came out. We had to get the $1 cans of full throttle.
Oh, yeah.
You got more liquid and you got more caffeine. So I think that was what we survived off of when I didn't have coffee.
Army medic or paramedic, who complains more?
Paramedic, 100% paramedic. Army medic, again, we're sort of, we get babied as an Army medic a lot of times. Everybody loves the Army medic. Paramedics, man, we're a bunch of crybabies. We got a bunch of crybabies doing paramedicine.
I agree, and I am one. What would you say your spirit animal would be after a 24-hour shift?
Oh gosh, probably a cracked out raccoon digging through the trash can at that same gas station. 24. Oh man, they're tough on you these days.
Yeah, that's fair. And then lastly, what's the most ridiculous superstition EMS crews have?
It ain't ridiculous if it's true, right? So there's two of them. So the quiet, that one. Everybody knows you don't say the Q word, right? Because I'm telling you, it's true. It is true. It's true. And then they come in threes.
Yep.
Have you heard that one? They come in threes.
I've heard that one.
Either structure fires, cardiac arrest, whatever. They come in threes. So I think we're very superstitious for that. I'm not a data person, but if we did statistics for that, the data would be alarming on how accurate it is.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Brad, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, man, it's been great.
Where can people find out about the mental health summits, just about you in general, everything? Like, you got a website, socials?
Yeah. So there's pierceprovisions.com. Again, that's the educational company. And when we first started the foundation, I just sort of stuck a page on there for the foundation. But I am building piercefoundation.org is being built right now as a standalone website for the foundation. So by the time this airs, everything should be up live, so that people can find everything they want to about the summits and all of the other things that we're doing. We just did a fundraiser for a first responder family for their kid to get a track chair for a kid that has cerebral palsy. So the kid is now going to be able to go out with his dad in the fields and do some hunting because it's one of those like the bulldozer tracks. Yeah, so they got the tracks on the wheelchair. We just raised over $16,000 to get that kid that track chair. So you'll be able to see all those fundraisers that we do for first responders and their families. We love showing off how supportive our folks are. And you can find us all of our socials pretty much at Pierce Foundation. Pretty heavy on Facebook and TikTok. So like, share, follow. That's what gets it out there. We don't do a whole bunch of marketing. Everything that we do is through our socials on Facebook and TikTok. So I'd love to have some folks follow and help move the mission.
That's great. That's great. Well, everybody listening, I got a few more announcements real quick before we get off here. By the time this airs, it will probably be out because I think this is going to get posted June 8th. But if y'all missed it, I'm going to be on TV. Please check out my TV show. I'm going to be on the show called 100 Cooks. It's on Food Network and HBO Max, hosted by Terry Crews. Cooking competition, me and 99 other cooks. So please, comment on Food Network social media, egg me on. Please go check that out. And then lastly, pre-orders are up on my website. I have 2 new endeavors. I got first responder trading cards out now called Frequent Flyers. There's 125 cards to collect, so you can get those on shop.thesaltyparamedic.com for pre-order. They'll probably be at your mailbox no later than late July this year. Then I got a party game now called Limp Hoses. This will be out. It's available for pre-order. Probably be out by late June 2026 if you pre-order it. Same website. Go check those out. Trying to sell those because if you missed it as well, my children's books, I'm getting illustrated by professional artists, and that ain't cheap. So go check those out. That's going to pay my artists so I can get kids' books out. And I posted, if y'all have like schools, fire departments, orphanages, whoever needs books donated, I'm going to send a bunch of books this Christmas out to y'all once they get illustrated. So please send me an email at thesaltyparamedic@gmail.com. And thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode.